Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. Before we kick off this week's episode, just a quick ask. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure that you never miss an episode, never miss out on any of the strategies and tactics that we're sharing to help you continue charting your own path to freedom. And if you'd like to go deeper with any of this, we've launched a free Facebook group, which you can join at pathtofreedom.com/group. And we've linked that in the show notes to make it easy for you to find. All right. Thank you again for being here. Let's drop in to the episode. Hey, what's up, everyone? And welcome back to the Path to Freedom podcast. In this episode, we are spotlighting another franchisee. And the franchisee this week is none other than Armando Christian Perez, who most of you probably know better as Mr. Worldwide or Mr. 305. That's right, Pitbull, right? Pitbull is also making a splash in the franchise world in addition to all the accolades that he's accumulated over the years with his music. He's also becoming known as a very savvy businessman, and franchising is playing a pretty big role in his portfolio of businesses. So for those of you familiar with Pitbull, some of this is probably not new information, but he's the son of Cuban immigrants, grew up in South Florida. So he's always had an affinity for, helping other immigrants, and particularly from South America or Latin communities that are, trying to make their way here in the US. And that's exactly what he's doing with his involvement in franchising. So Pitbull originally got involved in the franchising space back in, I believe it was 2012, when he signed a partnership that gave him a significant amount of equity in Miami Subs, which is a long-standing brand, I should say, originating in Miami. And there's an interesting story kind of behind this that I found intriguing, at least, which was that when Pitbull was really first coming up and trying to make his way in the music industry, he used to go and sit at the local Miami Subs restaurant near where he lived, and it almost turned into a second office for him, he says, where, he would sit there, he would work on writing music. He would have meetings with his attorney and other people from his team. And he used to even joke with the staff there that one day he would own Miami Subs. And this was back in the 90s or early 2000s. So, fast forward to 2012, that joke or that dream actually became a reality. And the real mission for Pitbull and part of why they brought him in as a partner was they saw big opportunity to expand Miami Subs throughout South America and Latin America. The brand itself over the years has, been a little bit up and down. I think at its peak in maybe the late 90s or early 2000s, they had a couple hundred locations. Then they got bought out by Nathan's Famous, and the brand had a little bit of turmoil, shrinking all the way down to only 30 some locations in early 2001. But that was before Pitbull got involved. It sounds like the new ownership group is very optimistic about where the brand can go. And they're very excited about the prospect of not only continuing to expand throughout the US, but also throughout Latin America. And that's something that Pitbull is really, really passionate about. And so if you fast forward from 2012 to more recently in 2023, Pitbull signed a deal with an organization called FranSmart. And FranSmart is essentially one of these franchise development firms. So they partner with brands that they see a lot of upside in. They've worked with brands like Qdoba and Five Guys Grill, right? And I'm sure everyone listening recognizes those brand names. So, it was FranSmart that was behind the rocket ship growth that those brands have seen, scaling to thousands of locations, for each of those brands. And so Pitbull was attending a franchise industry conference, and he heard Dan Rowe, who's the founder and CEO of FranSmart, give a presentation. And I'm not sure the particulars of what the presentation was, but apparently one of the topics he covered was franchise ownership of Latin Americans, in particularly in the food space, and also I think Latin themed brands, if you will, kind of like Qdoba, I guess you could say. So anyways, Pitbull actually went up to Dan Rowe, the CEO of FranSmart, after this presentation that he gave, and he asked him a question. He said, why are most Latin brands owned and run by white people rather than Latinos? And apparently Dan Rowe answered by saying, you know what? I don't know, but that's a really good question. And that was the genesis of this partnership with Pitbull and FranSmart. And so the first brand that they're both really collaborating on together is a brand out of Chicago called Cilantro Taco Grill. And based on the research I'm doing, I haven't seen any current numbers for 2024, but at the end of 2023, they had 15 stores open. But one of the things that Pitbull is really passionate about, other than helping other Latin Americans become successful through business ownership, and in particularly in his efforts with FranSmart and the other franchise endeavors he's invested in, he wants to help Latin Americans leverage the franchise business model to create success and wealth for themselves and their families. And so if you're from Latin America, apparently you look at the Chipotles or the Qdobas of the world as not really being authentic Latin or South American food, right? It's kind of Americanized, right? We've all been to Chipotle, and depending on what you think about the food, a lot of people may say it's good, but it's not probably authentic Mexican or Latin food. So that's something that Pitbull was really passionate about, right? Which was bringing real, genuine, authentic Latin food to North America via the franchise model, and helping Latin Americans leverage that as a vehicle to create wealth and success for themselves and their families. So this Cilantro Taco Grill is the first endeavor that Pitbull and FranSmart have partnered in together for this goal. And there's a really interesting story behind the Cilantro Taco Grill as well. The founder, who's still heavily involved in the business today and working closely with Pitbull and the team at FranSmart, is a gentleman by the name of Tamak Morfin. And I apologize if I did not pronounce that right, but he's an entrepreneur whose family immigrated from Guadalajara, Mexico, to the US back in the early 1980s. And, I've read some statements from Mr. Morfin in interviews, where he recalls his father working up to 3 jobs at a time to try to support him and his family, after they immigrated to the United States, and really just, working tirelessly to set his family up for success. And Tamak Morfin was the first one in his family to go to college and tried a few different things, apparently even ran for political office somewhere there in the Chicago area and lost a very close race. And, had always had this, I guess, kind of pulling, as he describes it, to, be in the food business and provide genuine, authentic Latin food to the Chicago community. But for whatever reason, he'd kind of resisted that for a while, tried a few different avenues, and finally said, all right, you know what? Let's really double down on, creating a restaurant, bringing good, authentic Latin food to the community. And that's how this Cilantro Taco Grill came about. And, I've not had a chance to try it yet. Sounds amazing, but it sounds like the big differentiator between Cilantro Taco Grill and something like Chipotle or Qdoba is the authenticity of the food, so much so that when they first launched in the Chicago area, where there is a significant Latin community, a lot of people were skeptical, right? A lot of people were kind of joking on it, like, oh, look, another Chipotle, kind of Americanized, Mexican or Latin food. And once people started trying it, they're like, oh no, this is different. Like, this is the real deal.
Damn good.
And that was apparently a big part of the attraction for Pitbull and FranSmart as well as the founder himself, Tamak Morfin, and his passion for the business, his passion for remaining authentic with the food, even through scaling it through a franchise model, which is always one of the toughest parts for any business to scale, is to maintain quality, right? And particularly with food, it's maintaining the quality of the food, especially across different markets where, culturally there's different tastes and, different cuisines that are favored. But Pitbull and FranSmart seem very, very bullish on, what they can do with Cilantro Taco Grill and how they feel they can scale it across North America over the coming years. So I wanted to, again, kind of highlight the founder of Cilantro Taco Grill with a quote that I found that I thought was pretty powerful. He says, "As an immigrant to the United States, I've personally learned the language, the culture, and most importantly, how to take advantage of the great opportunities this great nation has to offer." He says his father took full advantage by working multiple jobs and assuring a good education for his siblings and himself. As I mentioned already, Morfin was the first in his family to attend college, and that's where he studied political science. And sounds like his father wasn't a big fan of him, going that path. He ended up doing so anyways, and then eventually, pivoted back to the restaurant business. But again, sitting at somewhere around 15 locations, they combined with FranSmart and, their knowledge and track record growing brands like Five Guys and Qdoba, they feel confident that, in a short period of time, over the next 3 to 5 years, they can grow this to 500 locations, if not more, across North America. And, they have a really core commitment to not only keep the food authentic and genuine, as I've mentioned, but, to really make sure that this is something that other immigrant families can take advantage of and use as a way to essentially kind of build their own American dream. And I haven't read that, they are exclusively making the franchise opportunity available to immigrants, but I know that's something that they are really, really focused on. And, again, just want to try to create this pathway for families that have immigrated to the U.S. to get into business for themselves and, build something that can not just give them stable income and, a good livelihood in that regard, but, continue to build and grow and create generational wealth. And I think that's amazing. Pitbull's such a good example of someone that, came to the US, or his family came to the US, and look at what he's built. He's got such a prominent brand. He's involved in so many different industries. Obviously, he's most well known for the work that he's done in the music industry, and he's clearly, a superstar in that regard. But as I mentioned at the top of this episode, he's making a big name for himself in the business world, and he's really proven to be a very savvy, sophisticated investor and business person. He has his own vodka. I think it's Voli or Voli 305. I think he was originally brought in as a minority partner on this vodka brand, and then ended up acquiring the entire brand and rebranded it to Voli 305. I read somewhere he's got part ownership in a NASCAR team, which is interesting. I've done a few of these spotlights on other kind of celebrity franchisees, and I think Formula One racing was one that some of them had invested in as well. So, interesting mix, interesting kind of portfolio, but again, love seeing that some of these celebrities, whether they be professional athletes or, in this case, music stars, leverage the franchise model, as a way to continue building their own portfolio and their own wealth. But, what really stood out to me here, as I'm researching Pitbull is, there seems to be a very, very genuine desire and commitment to essentially kind of giving back, right? And creating opportunities for, immigrants that may not have as many other opportunities or entrepreneurial opportunities available to them. And in particular with the Cilantro Taco Grill, while, maintaining this dedication to authentic, genuine Latin American food. And I think that'll serve them well. I think, most people enjoy trying foods from other cultures. And I think, there's a little bit of fatigue in the US marketplace for all of these, quote unquote, cultural foods that have been very much Americanized, whether that's, to maintain profit margin or what the case is. But personally, I would be very excited to go try Cilantro Taco Grills. I'm recording this at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm craving a good taco right now, like a good authentic taco. So may have to cash in on an early lunch here in a little bit. But really cool story here. It's going to be exciting to see, how Pitbull continues to help brands that he's partnered with, like Miami Subs, like Cilantro Taco Grills, help them continue to grow. And it'll be interesting to see if he gets involved in the other franchise businesses. With his partnership with FranSmart, I imagine there will be ample opportunity for, him to get involved with other franchise organizations. But if you find this interesting, please make sure to follow or subscribe. Please make sure to like and share this with anyone else that you think may get value. But we'll keep coming back with more franchisee spotlights, franchise brand spotlights, and of course the weekly interview episodes that we do will drop every Thursday. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.